Welcome, my 36 subscribers, everyone on Wrestling Reddit. And if you're naturally a three-man team, but you're now missing one of your members, and you just don't feel the same way, welcome to my review of Sunny Voyage 2022 by Pro Wrestling Noah. Let's begin. So the first match is between Funky Express, so Muhammad Yone and Akitoshi Saito. There's just two of them now, versus Atsushi Kotoge and Kinya Okada. So Funky Express just doesn't feel the same without King Tani. I don't know if this dynamic works with just Yone and Aki. They can't do their trio spot anymore, and I don't know how the funky taunting will work with just one of them doing it. Like with Yone and Tani, they both participated well in the gimmick, while Aki was just a tough dude. So yeah, I hope they find a third member soon. But this match was really good, and it made me a lot more invested in it than some of the DDT tournament matches, especially on the first night. Because this had a clear story in it, and Kinya Okada was the main character. He started off the match with not even scratching the veterans. Aki was doing a lot of no-selling, and even if Okada, I think, hit him on the neck with a forearm, Akito just didn't move. But as we progressed through the match, Okada's moves became more effective. He started hurting the veterans, and he even almost got Yone with the Boston Crab. So yeah, I loved Okada in this match. As for Kotoge, he was more like a sidekick. He just did his stuff and went out. I almost forgot that he was in the match, even if he's portrayed as the more powerful person in their team. As for Akito, he's okay when he's not being asked to do a lot or sell really really hard because he has limited mobility, and when he does a jumping move, it doesn't look good. He should get rid of the spinning wheel kick. Maybe some more big guy things could help, axe handles and stuff. He can even go up the second turnbuckle and do a double axe handle. That would look nice on him. Or a full Nelson slam. But yeah, Aki was pretty okay here. And as for Yone, I think he's the star of their team. And I love how he's not being portrayed as the weakest member of their team, just like he was when there was three of them. I mean, Yone even got the final pin here. And his funky pose for this match is when Kotoge tries to sweep his legs, but then Yone with his thick legs just stays up and then does the pose. So yeah, nice variation to a funky pose. But for the second time he tried it, I like how Kotoge did not fall for it, but I hate how he fell for another taunt. That's not the funky pose. Boo. So yeah, this match just had I don't know if this is the right term to use, but it had better psychology. They knew when to use the moves when they needed to, and they didn't just pull out strike battles all of the time. And when they did the strike battles, it was for the story of Kinya Okada beating the veterans or something, which he failed in at the end. So let's get to the top 3 spots of the match. So number 3 is the funky pose that Yone does. Nice variation. I already explained why I like this. So let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is when Okada just went at the veterans. It's him versus Funky Express, and he didn't care. And for the top 1 spot of the match, it has to be the Muscle Buster by Yone. Because I keep seeing this guy lose, and I never really saw his finisher. So yeah, when he attempted the Muscle Buster, I was pleasantly surprised, and it really popped me. Who knew that Yone, a lower card dude, did such a devastating finisher that can legit injure people for long periods of time in real life. So yeah, that was the finish. It was a muscle buster, a pin. But again, the problem I have with the Noah tag matches is that it's like they're wrestling singles matches, but there's 2 of them. The teamwork we get is a bit minimal. Not really much cutting the ring in half, or working on the guy on the corner with your teammate, or even the keep the guy off the corner spots. So yeah, I really like this match. It belongs where it should be, in the undercard of a minor show or a TV show, but it's very high on that tier, and it does its job. And so after this, the second match is between Daiki Inaba and Simon Gotch. And I'm so relieved that they're putting Gotch against somebody who is more or less at the same level as he is on the card. And someone who he's allowed to beat. Because the singles matches that he's had have been against like people higher on the card or people who are like he's guaranteed to defeat. And yeah, this is the first one I've seen that is 50-50 from the start. And I think these two did really well. It's like everything in the match had weight to it, even if the match just stayed grounded. They used a variety of strikes, and I liked one specifically that reminds me of a kung fu movie. But I'm gonna talk about that in the spots of the match. But yeah, I like how they varied up their strikes. It wasn't all old school where they just like used like punches all the time. They mixed it up. And even if their strikes felt hard, you could feel them hold back so they can be safe with their opponent. And there wasn't a lot of like lying down and like milking of like the crowd reaction here. I usually hate if they do that too much, where they just like lie on their backs and wait for the crowd to cheer before they get up. I like how there's almost none of them here. So yeah, so now for the top 3 spots of the match. So in this match, I only have 2, and they're both Simon Gotches. So, sorry Inaba. So number 2 is the drop kick that Gotch does, like on the opponent at the apron. And then he has this nice like in-ring character moment here where he tells a fan to move aside because the drop kick he's about to do is like so devastating. But Inaba doesn't really like get to the fan after being kicked. He like falls over. So yeah, nice moment where he told the fan, you might want to move. But I like how Kaito sells it more, where he's like launched off of the apron. And then for the number 1 spot of the match, it's like shortly before this, where Gotch does like these grounded kicks while he's in the seated position to knock Inaba down and then set him up for a senton on the apron. So yeah, that's my number 1 spot. So the finish of the match is a running lariat followed by the Gotch style pile driver for the win. So yeah, again, we see how the WWE managed to fail with Simon Gotch so much. They gave him a low ceiling gimmick and basically just made him a low card guy when he's capable of like more. You know what? I don't think Gotch suits the WWE style very much. I think he's right here where he belongs, and he should have started here earlier when he was younger. Because yeah, he's a perfect fit for this company and like the Japanese wrestling style. So yeah, great match. This could be in the undercard of a pay-per-view, but I won't go as far as like say that it could be a main event of anything. It's a more of like pay-per-view undercard match. The match itself is like too good for a minor show, but I won't go as far as saying that it could main event anything. There's nothing much spectacular that happens, nor are there moments of like high drama where it would justify it being a main event. Like, it's no Gotch versus Kitamiya, but it's like a top class undercard match. So yeah. The next match is between Manabu Soya versus Hijo de Dr. Wagner Jr., or Dr. Wagner's grandchild. And I'm kind of surprised that he didn't do the things he usually does. He didn't do much eye poking or like the head turn spot. I felt that this could have really used those, especially since it's established that Soya is the much better like power guy. When they go head to head in strike battles, Soya always wins, and when it's a test of strength, Soya overpowers Hijo 100% of the time. So Dr. Wagner's grandchild here has to resort to like cruiserweight moves like Enziguris, super kicks, Hurricane Ranas, and even a Michinoku driver to finish the match. And yeah, an outside dive as well. So this is a nice story to tell, and goddamn man, 3 straight matches that are impactful and well structured. And Noah really has like a high baseline when it comes to like psychology and like the moves feeling heavy, even with the junior heavyweights. So yeah, this match was really good. But my only problem with this is that it doesn't feel like Dr. Wagner Jr.'s grandchild did enough to beat Soya. Because Soya is the heavier and more powerful wrestler, and he actually got in more offense than Wagner. I believe that bigger wrestlers should be harder to take down. So that's why smaller wrestlers should do more moves to them. But in this match, I feel like Soya had it won, and that Wagner did not do enough to beat him. And yeah, they had this moment when they were both on the floor, and I previously said that I don't like this, but it works better in the later parts of the match. If you do it at the start or in the middle, it just feels weird. It should be done at the later stages of a match, like they did here. So time for the spots of the match. So number 2 is the outside dive by Wagner's grandchild that reached the crowd. Some young lions had to shock absorb because these are two heavyweights crashing into each other. So yeah, and then the number 1 spot of the match, again just 2 in this match. Number 1 is the finish where Soya went for his strong lariat, his lariat finisher that I forgot the name of. He telegraphs this hard by hitting the turnbuckle, and then he misses it, and Wagner gets him in a Michinoku driver and wins the match 1-2-3. So yeah, another solid match, but I don't think it's better than the last. But as for its rating, I think it's the same as the last, where it could be a pay-per-view undercard, but not a main event. And neither is it suitable to be a main event of a minor show. So yeah, so pay-per-view undercard quality match. Okay, so match number 4 is Michael Elgin, Masa Kitamiya, and Yoshiki Inamura versus Takashi Sugiura, Hideki Suzuki, and Timothy Thatcher. And goddamn, Timothy Thatcher looks like a dude from the 1900s. He looks like a guy from one of those punchy pugilistic pictures. I'm never gonna do that again, but yeah. And I like how he wrestles, how he looks. Does this nice slap on Inamura when he got the rope break. And I love the spot when he went for a hammerlock on Inamura and then Inamura just powers out of it. We don't really get to see spots like that anymore, but yeah, nice spot. Might be number 3. So after the initial encounter between Thatcher and Yoshimura, this got kind of slow, but it became interesting again when Hideki Suzuki and Elgin were the ones in the ring. And even if when Suzuki faced off against Kitamiya, it's established that he can't just shut down people with his catch can, like he did with Nakajima or other less than super heavyweight wrestlers, because Elgin and Kitamiya just overpowered the shit out of Suzuki. But then Kitamiya starts working on Thatcher's arm, and then they work it, they target it, multiple members of the enemy team just go for Thatcher's arm. They even kept him in the corner. They cut the ring in half. Thank God. And I really like this shit. And Thatcher sells on offense. One of my favorite things. But the problem with this is that this doesn't play out in the ending. Thatcher even makes the dude who worked on his arm first tap out by going for that guy's arm, so that kind of doesn't make much sense. And the beating that Thatcher took is more than what Kitamiya took, so it kind of doesn't add up to that ending. I mean, the ending is just Thatcher sort of hulking and no-selling the submission breaks by Elgin, and he just keeps holding Kitamiya in the armbar, in the Fujiwara armbar, until he taps out. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the ending. I think the damage done to Kitamiya, him being the least involved in their team, he spent the least time in the ring, he spent the least time being beaten up, did not warrant an ending like that where he loses by submission. So yeah, sorry, doesn't make sense. I think someone who was more beaten up and is a young wrestler should have been the one defeated. Yoshimura is the prime person to be pinned here. He's young, was the most beaten up. Or if you wanted to set up for the tag team championship match so badly, if you wanted number 1 contenders, you could have just beaten up Kitamiya more, or maybe just had a team challenge them instead of beating him. Or beat him in a singles match. So yeah, I'm pretty disappointed in this match. There were points where it got slow and boring, but you know what? In the second half, in the latter stages, it got pretty cool because my top spot of the match was a superplex by Sugiura on Shimura. Like, this is the type of spot where if you gimmick the ring, it would be reasonable to think that the ring would be destroyed. It was that cool, but a spot like that where the ring would get destroyed is too American, so it doesn't work here. And then my number 2 spot in the match is, I think, where poor Hideki Suzuki goes for a butterfly suplex on Elgin, of all people, and then he fails and Elgin just like throws him over his head. So this match, I've stated what I didn't like about it, and yeah, this might be the worst match of the card for me. Okay, so after this is the penultimate match between Shuhei Taniguchi and man-made Noah himself. Noah in human form. He wears Misawa colors and he isn't even hiding it. He has a new hairstyle after losing the GHC Heavyweight Championship. Go! Shiozaki! Okay, so it's funny that last month I wanted to copy Go Shiozaki's hair. I totally became like a Go Shiozaki mark after Majestic, after that great match. So I went to the barber, I changed my mind because I discovered that my dad had the same hair that Go had at one point, and so I changed my mind, and then I immediately regretted it after. And now I discover that me and Go have the same hair. So yay? Question mark? So yeah, shit, I got my wish after all. So nice, I can still do that intro even if Go doesn't have the championship anymore, because now he has a new hairstyle and I can put it on the 4th line. So yeah. So Shuhei Taniguchi got some more dominant moments in than I expected. He was dominant for about like the first 5 minutes when he backdropped Go on the apron. This is my number 3 spot of the match. And honestly, when they came back in the ring, I sort of drifted off a bit. I tuned out of the match. But when Go started chopping and Shuhei took it with like crazy eyes, that got me back in. They didn't go for specific body parts. Their approach was kind of like stopping power to get your opponent down. It was too slow at parts for me, but they made up for it in how stiff and hard, that sounded wrong, everything looks. Like, this is the exact opposite of like a Yuki Ueno match. And if we didn't get the same thing over and over throughout the whole night, I would have been higher on the match than I currently am. But I think this could have been helped if they just like increased the gear. But I do like the approach to the finish. Go did like 2 short arm lariats, the Go Flasher, and like the top spot of the match, which I'll say later, to get to the ending, which was a running lariat. And it's not even like the Go and lariat where everything's set up. It's just like a stiff running lariat to finish the match. And so let's get to the top 3 spots. So number 3, as I said earlier, it is the backdrop by Taniguchi on Go on the apron. Number 2 is like an actual choke slam by Taniguchi on Go. Like, this was in the middle of the ring. And Go was trying to resist, but you could like hear from Go's reaction, and you can like see from Taniguchi's hand that he was squeezing on the neck. And people don't usually do this. And then the number 1 spot of the match is like this superplex from a victim position by Go Shiozaki that turned into a neck breaker because of how heavy Taniguchi is. So for me, this match was like a minor event or like a TV main event. If they just picked the gear up a bit, it could have been something more. And I kind of had to watch this twice because like early in the morning I watched it and it sort of put me to sleep. But when I woke up and watched it again, I got to appreciate it more. I got more excited with the ending. I could like feel more because I wasn't tired. And yeah, really good match. So after this, we get the main event, which is the Congo leadership. So that's basically Kenoh and Katsuhiko Nakajima against Satoshi Kojima, the new GHC heavyweight champion, and his son, Kaito Kiyomiya. So this match was basically taking Kiyomiya apart for like almost all of the match. And we get some nice storytelling with this. And to add to that, the last time we've seen these two, so the Congo leadership, Kenoh had a banger against Daisuke Sasaki, and Nakajima knocked the DDT champion out. And he robbed us an opportunity of like a 40-minute 6-man tag team match that would have been insane. He also endangered the life of a fellow wrestler. So you inhumane, sadistic motherfuckers who enjoyed the knockout, maybe because you hate DDT, or you like want wrestling to be real again, even if it was always a work, especially the dude who kept spamming my post, who's named after his favorite wrestler. I'll just throw out some names for you guys. So Yoshihiro Takayama, Hayabusa, Shinjiro Otani, Katsuyori Shibata, and Mitsuharu Misawa. A person's life is not worth your fucking entertainment, especially if that form of entertainment takes pride in protecting its workers, especially in the ring. How stiff you work or like your body count on the number of people you've hurt is not an indicator of how successful you are, because safer people out there, especially in America, make millions and millions of dollars by being safe and doing minimal things. And they don't end up forcefully retiring, paralyzed, or dead. This is where I agree with some of the people that I usually don't agree with, like Disco Inferno, Jim Cornette, a lot of the old heads who preach safety. This is what I can never disagree with them on. So yeah, I still think Nakajima should have been punished. Endo's absence clearly affected the King of DDT tournament. We could have had Endo versus Higuchi, which would have been sick seeing how good Higuchi is. And again, Nakajima robbed us of a 40-minute match on like the biggest Wrestle Universe pay-per-view. So now that I'm done with that, let's get to the actual match. So for 15 minutes, with some interruptions in between, Kongo just beat the shit out of Kiyomiya, especially Nakajima. Nakajima did the most damage to another Endo-sized dude. He just took him apart, and this was actually pretty cool to see. I know I want him to be punished, but it's undeniable how talented this guy is. He does combos like it's nothing, and he has awesome kicks. Kenoh does some beating down, but Nakajima just goes above and beyond. They even go for the Endo knockout spot. Nakajima did the hard slap to Kiyomiya, but as you can see here, he doesn't follow through. His hand doesn't go through his opponent's head. He pulls back and he lets the sweat like splash for greater effect without actually knocking out his opponent. And this is my top spot of the match. This was shocking. It was a callback to something serious that happened just a week before. And it worked because Kiyomiya is young, and again, I said he is Endo-sized. And I like the parts where Kojima, like a concerned parent, expresses his concern and cheers Kiyomiya on without breaking the tag team rules. Kongo cut the ring in half, and they were the clear heels in this match. And every time Kojima was in the ring, I keep wanting Kiyomiya to go back, because with Kojima in, he just slows down the match. It would have been a better story if the beatdown to Kiyomiya was like 15 minutes straight. Or, you know, like more than that. And then, like, Kiyomiya would have just gone for the hot tag, and then Kojima, fully rested, holds off Kongo to a time limit draw, just like it did here. But I think the parts where Kiyomiya wasn't beaten up, where Kojima took some of the heat, really took from the story that they were trying to tell. I think this was a missed opportunity. And it would have made the comeback that Kiyomiya does before he tagged Kojima in for the last time more impactful, and I think it would have popped the crowd harder. And as for Kenoh, I don't really remember him doing much till the end, until the time limit draw. But yeah, the match ends in a time limit draw, and a lot of Americans might not like this. I see comments all over the place, especially in NFL games or even like wrestling matches, where Americans strongly dislike a draw. They say it's like not a real finish. Even like major TV personalities like Stephen A. Smith vehemently oppose like ties. But I really like ties because it adds to like the drama of moments. For example, in the Premier League or like in any European football league, whenever the top two teams tie, we always get great reactions. Since they get less points for that than actually winning games, it's like a so close moment. It's like a so close moment that can change a whole season. And in wrestling, it protects everyone in the match. So that's why I really like draws. And I think the WWE should do it more. And not have the matches end in like a DQ or like a double countout because that's like dumb. Time limit draws are superior. So yeah, let's get to the spots of the match. So number 1, I've already mentioned it. It's the recreation of the Tetsuya Endo knockout spot. Number 2 is every time Satoshi Kojima tries to save Kitamiya, especially the part where he actually enters the ring and breaks up a submission, and the earlier parts that he chooses not to in order to like follow the rules of the tag team match. That is usually ignored and I'm okay with. And as for number 3, it could be like Nakajima's combo early on or Kiyomiya's comeback, but for me it has to be the finish. From the part where Nakajima and Kenoh were teeing off on Kojima, Kojima just eats a barrage of kicks up to like the missed diving foot stomp and the time limit draw. So this is my match of the night, and this could have been the main event of a pay-per-view. You could attach the tag team titles here and I won't be surprised or anything because it's that good of a match. So yeah, Noah really has a high baseline when it comes to the quality of the matches. But the problem with watching their shows is that, especially in like these main shows where there are no juniors, we get basically the same match every time. There's not much change of pace, and it kind of gets tiring if you like see it for multiple shows. But simply inserting juniors in the card will like remove that problem completely. So yeah, the gap of quality in the wrestling in Noah and DDT is like large. But what DDT does better is make the show more exciting. It's hard to fall asleep in a DDT show. And this is what New Japan does the best of all. They have consistent match quality and the juniors are on every show. It doesn't feel the same all the time. You never get this problem. And when they go for a 5-star match, it's a fucking 5-star match. Their title matches don't usually disappoint. So yeah, that's kind of my conclusion after watching 3 Japanese promotions. So yeah, these are my match rankings. I would say this is a nice return show for Noah, and I'm looking forward to watch the next one. I just wish there was more variety in their shows because it's really getting a bit samey. So yeah, that's it for the review. Like, comment, and subscribe for engagement. Share if you don't know me. Hit that bell notification for future videos, and watch my shit.